evening, everybody. It is Monday, May 18th. Before we begin our regular council meeting, we're going to hold 3 public hearings. The first of the 3 public hearings that I would like to open would be to hear a proposed increase of 0.75 mils in the cemetery maintenance operating tax millage rate to be levied in 2020. The hearing will be held this evening, May 18th at 7 p.m. within the South Building Meeting Room. The meeting to take action on the proposed additional millage will follow the public hearing with the regular Board of Trustees meeting. If adopted, the proposed additional millage will increase operating revenues from ad valorem property taxes 5.3% over such revenues generated by levies permitted without holding a hearing. If the proposed additional millage rate is not approved, the operating revenue will increase by 0% over the preceding year's operating revenue. The anticipated tax revenue to be generated by the proposed cemetery maintenance operating tax millage is $127,459. The taxing unit publishing this notice and identified below has complete authority to establish the number of mills to be levied from within its authorized millage rate. So at this time, I'm going to open up the public hearing. Is there anybody attending on the Zoom meeting or attending on the live Facebook stream that wishes to publicly comment on our cemetery proposed millage?
Okay, good evening. Welcome to the Bruce Township Planning Commission meeting of
Sorry.
May 13th,
Oh,
2021.
that's okay.
Rockton Township will be acting as our reporter today.
Bottom. Right.
So be patient with us. This is the first time we're doing this meeting with female call-ins. We have
Is that their meeting at the same time?
Must be. Or a tape.
You got it right.
Okay. So do you want to unmute Kelly Stevens? I believe she wanted to comment for the cemetery.
If she is, Christine, you could probably win. He's not. Turn off your mic.
Mic's on. If I say so.
Are we good? Kelly, did
Oh,
you
is it
have
the-
any input on the proposed hearing for the cemetery?
Christine, we're having a hard, are you talking to me? We're having a hard time.
Yes.
Did you just open this up to the cemetery board?
Yes, I did.
What's on there?
Okay, we're getting it back. Christine, we're having a hard, are you talking to me? We're having a hard time.
Yes.
Should cut off.
Did you just open this up to the cemetery board?
It's just.
I know.
You know, I better call you.
There's no way to try to go back to the program.
I don't know why it's looping like that. Okay, and I'll put you on speakerphone.
Okay, because this is, I'm getting all kinds of sound back on this.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird with the feedback. So,
Okay.
go ahead. I have you on speakerphone now.
Okay, I'm here with myself, Kelly Stevens, Diane Smiles, and Sandra. Just our input on this request for the levy for the tax on the cemetery.
Right. Turn the sound off on your computer.
What?
Turn the sound off on your computer.
All right.
Could you staple all those people up, like, those are the names?
Their cemetery board.
They're the-
State that so that people know.
All right, so can you start over and tell me who's in the room with you?
Yes. Okay. Our input tonight on this increase, or the ask for the tax levy increase on maintenance for the cemetery, I feel is very important. This is a piece of history that the village of Romeo owns. We've never put aside a rainy day fund for the perpetual care of this cemetery. The roads are crumbling, the street signs are missing. Just the roof on the building is about, I don't know, ready to collapse. We just redid the inside. So I don't know why we've never put aside monies to upkeep the cemetery.
We have some feedback. Are you okay for me to proceed, or are you okay? All right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Perfect. Yeah, it's a very good question. What we used of prior year fund balance, doesn't exist anymore. We did pretty much drain that account to a negative loss, as you know, when the former clerk administrator purchased a lawnmower. So that took care of, that was a $14,000 purchase done in 2018. So.
Well, that brings up another thing. We have this expensive equipment that we're housing in a building that has a roof that needs very much replacement. I mean, we have this, why are we going to take the chance of the equipment getting ruined?
Right, I agree.
And then there's signage in that, road signage that has been missing for years on a lot of those streets, and the streets are deplorable also.
Yes.
We are the keepers of the history of this cemetery, and as the village of Romeo, I would think we want to put our best foot forward on the maintenance of this.
That's why it was very important for me to establish our cemetery board and have you meet on a regular basis with the cemetery sexton so that you could appropriately plan and we could fulfill our duty. I consider it a duty for us as the village leadership to make sure that the cemetery and any of our residents who are buried there are cared for. As the village leadership,
I agree.
So.
And if I read the authority of the council to levy taxes for the cemetery, because there's never been a tax levied on the cemetery, this can be done by the village council with a 2/3 vote, correct?
That is correct. Yep, that is correct.
Well, I would, my ask of you tonight would be to consider this for the maintenance of the cemetery, to levy the tax for, that you're proposing, Christine.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay. Thank you, ladies. Anything else?
Not right now.
Okay. I'm going to hang up and we'll resume the Zoom meeting. All right. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else that's on the Zoom meeting that wanted to raise their hand to give public comment under this public hearing? Do you see anybody else? I didn't see anybody.
No.
Okay. At this time, then I'm going to close the public hearing for the cemetery, proposed cemetery, .75.
There is one.
Oh, there is one? Okay.
Hi, good evening. Landlord from 196 Dickinson Street. Is this in regards to the raise in the water or for the cemetery?
This is for the cemetery, public hearing.
Oh, for the cemetery?
Yes.
Yeah, we were just kind of curious to why you were going so much and what was the plan with the money?
I'm sorry, why we're going so much?
Why so much, isn't it 3/4 of a mills? And what's our intentions with the monies? Are we gonna use that to develop that acre of land so we can get more sites?
Catherine, can you address that with the proposed upgrades?
Yes, we're looking into that. However, the property is, it's going to be a little complicated because we would need to establish new roads to assess that. area, and because there's no road right now that would get to that parcel, it's the drainage ditch. So the road would have to go through the drainage ditch. There's development costs involved in that, just to get the ground secure before we can even start marking out and surveying for the plots, which it would be great if we could do, if we could start saving up funds year by year, start collecting the funds to repair the roads and then create a new road. That would be a great asset to the cemetery to continue with that, but just to, start with some kind of savings. We have nothing in savings to go towards this project, but it would be a huge asset to the cemetery to expand that property.
Okay, part of that money is also being used for maintenance, correct? You are going to
Yes.
replace the shed, the roof on the shed.
Yes,
You're going to look at fixing the roads,
correct, yes.
street signs, and then there was some discussion, I believe, at the last cemetery board meeting to look into the cost of a columbarium
Yes.
to expand,
Oh, sorry. Yes,
to expand availability.
correct. And we were also looking into section markers,
Good question.
not street lights, but streets, street signs and section markers. And yes, the columbariums.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Mr. Blanchard?
From what I heard somewhat, if not, I'll catch up on the notes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Was there anybody else then who's attending the meeting remotely that had a comment for this public hearing on the cemetery?
I just recommend everyone
All right.
talking
You have one more?
into their microphone closer because we're having a hard time hearing the responses.
How about you guys get into your video?
They said they want everybody to talk into their microphones.
Okay.
Okay.
We will talk into our microphones and see if that helps. Okay. So I'm going to close the public hearing on the cemetery. I'm going to move next to the public hearing on the water and sewer rate proposals. So this, if adopted, the proposed water rate will increase operating revenues 32.7% over such revenues generated by rates permitted without holding a hearing. The anticipated water revenue to be generated by the proposed water rate increase is $272,654. If adopted, the proposed wastewater rate will increase operating revenues 23.9% over such revenues generated by rates permitted without holding a hearing. I'm sorry, the anticipated wastewater revenue to be generated by the increase is $35.89, or 27.9%, from $132.50 to $168.40. This equates to $56.13 per month, which is $11.90 per month increase. A quarterly residential bill using 24,000 gallons, which is the average household usage, would increase $75.65, that's a 28.63%, from $264.24 to $339.89. This equates to $113.30 per month, which is a $25.22 per month increase. So I'm going to open up the public hearing. Is there anybody out in the Zoom meeting that wishes to comment on the water rate increases? Going once? Going twice?
We
Okay.
have hands raised.
Is that Mr. Blanchard? Go ahead.
Got it back on mute. Jesus Christ.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Once again, that's an awful large spike in our rates. And is our water quality going to get any better? I mean, that seems pretty steep. And I'm in the service industry, and I know that things are costing more. But are we, sourcing another means of getting a cheaper price? What are we getting for all this extra money?
Okay, I'm going to meet.
Yeah, I mean,
Good question, Mr. Blanchard.
especially right now. I mean, I'm unemployed right now, and thankfully I'm making money, but not everybody is.
Okay.
The bottom line is 34% is a good chunk.
All right, so let me answer that question the best that I can. We had several months ago, Paul Bailey, who reported back on our SAW grant. That was the estimated cost of repairs to the infrastructure regarding our sewer. We did a mapping study, and we have identified several areas that are in urgent need of repair. The cost associated with that repair was roughly about $280,000, of which there is no capital improvement funds to pay for that. So the rate increase right now is to make the enterprise funds, water and sewer, self-sufficient, so that we are no longer funding them out of the general fund. They should be self-sufficient with the proper rate increase. We have not levied a water rate increase since 2016. At 2016, we only increased the water rate usage to the industrial park. So the residents have not seen any increases in water or the sewer rates since that time. So again, we've been paying for it out of our general fund. We've identified that there is some failing infrastructure. The only way to have a capital improvement fund is to have rates adjusted so that it covers our costs and then allows us to put some money aside so that if we did have a problem, an accident, a water main break, or a sewer pipe, that we have some funds to repair that. So it really doesn't affect the water per se. It's not going to improve the water. What it's going to do is maintain our system. Does that answer your question?
Sure.
Okay, could you hear me better that time? I think we might have gotten the hang of it. Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. Was there any other input that you had? Okay, thank you. All right, we have somebody else?
Live on Facebook, Penny Hesham. Is there any way of separating water and sewer rates?
Separate
Water and
meters.
sewer rates are separate right now. You are,
Probably means with separate meters.
I don't think so. We
Yeah.
only have one.
No,
is that-
I think-
Sewer's a percentage.
Yeah, of the,
Right.
Sewer is a percentage of your water take. So, no, there's no separating it from that standpoint.
right.
Okay, that's it.
Okay.
There's one more.
There's one more? Okay. On Zoom?
Yes.
Okay.
Water and-
Yeah. Would there be a sunset clause if we do go through with this? Build up the fund for that, where the rates go back to where they are today?
I'm sorry, is there a sunset clause? That's what I heard.
Yeah, my question is if we agree to this, would there be a sunset clause that in 18 months when the monies, or when it's funded, that the rates go back to where they are today?
Annually, every year, we adjust and we can look at our water and sewer rates. So they should be assessed basically every year. Most municipalities pass along a small cost increase. We get an increase every year from Great Lakes Water Authority for the water that we do purchase for our users on that side of town. And so historically, we take a look at what is our cost, what is our fund balance, what do we need to cover. We're never obligated more than one fiscal year to assess any rates. We implement them and then we look at that. And so we can take a look at what are our projected costs. We instituted the administration fee, the $4 a month fee was the last increase that you saw on your utility bill to plan for new meter upgrades because our meters are aging, some of them aren't working properly, and we need to make sure that we have accurate calculations so that you're only paying for what you're actually using or vice versa.
Can I add to that, though, how you said every year the water rates increase from Great Lakes Water Authority? They increase by 3%, and the cost comes to the village. We have not put that on the residents yet. That's why our funds, our revenues are flat, and our expenditures have been going up with water.
Does that answer your question?
No, not really, because anytime you give government more money, they waste it. So Thank you anyway.
Okay. Is there anybody else?
Facebook Live, Justin Parker wants to know, if we covered out of the general fund before, where is the money that was going to cover it being spent? Also, can the increase be spread out over a couple years instead of all at once? And he would like to also know if, Nate, where do you stand on this?
Like to know where I stand on it?
There we go.
At one of the meetings we had, we were told that basically for the last however many years, we haven't been increasing the water rates at small increases, which would bring us to where we want to get now. So we're kind of playing catch up, and we need to do this to make sure that our infrastructure is sound and any future emergencies, that sort of thing.
So the money that we've paid out of our general fund has always shown, again, that those two water and sewer funds are operating at a loss. Every year we supplement them. And Paul Bailey, our auditor, has warned us that they need to be self-sufficient. It should not be paid for out of our general fund. And with the new accounting practices that we put into place to account for depreciation, that's sort of emphasized how much of a loss that those two funds are operating. That's the $400,000 or $430,000 fund that was what was talked about us operating in the negative. It's not our general fund. I think that maybe you had referenced that on one of your Facebook posts, and I have seen that batted around on social media and some other areas. Again, those funds should be fluent so that whatever our costs are for operating that, and that is for the wastewater treatment staff, that is for the employees in the water department, DPW employees. A lot of that money goes for the payroll for those employee expenses. Because again, we haven't been doing any repairs. Now we know that we have some infrastructure that's in jeopardy, and we need to make sure that we're wisely saving some money so that we can address those repairs timely before we have an accident. Is there anybody else?
I think you missed his question. There was like 3 questions in there.
How Nate stood, where Nate stood, where was the money going?
And there was
If we covered out
Deferring
the
it.
general fund before, where is the money that was going to cover it being
I
spent?
think she answered that. We haven't been
And
fixing
also,
it.
can the increase be spread out over a couple years instead of all at once?
Well, like anything, you can prorate it, but it's just like pulling a Band-Aid off slowly. Do you rip it off all at once? Because we should have been assessing a small surcharge every year. Again, no rates have been increased in the last, 5 years, at a minimum of 5 years. So if we had been doing that prudently all along, this wouldn't seem like it's such a large leap. Or we can just rip the Band-Aid off, and then we'll be able to proactively have a balanced budget that's appropriate for the usage that are coming through that plant. No further questions.
May I add to this conversation as well? Excuse me. Back around 1990, the village residents voted on whether or not we wanted to go with Detroit City Water as they were offering it to us. And we turned that down, and then I think we purchased our own iron filtration system. So, and the good thing about having our own water, we should be proud of that, because people in Washington, if you know anybody, their water rates just keep going up and up and up. So once you give that away, because somebody did ask about maybe going with another supplier or something, we would have no control over the cost continuing to rise if we were with this Detroit City Water. We have our own in-house, sewage and water, and if you compare costs, monthly rates to other communities, we're not too bad at this point. So
Actually, we're significantly lower.
significantly lower.
And
yes.
that came through the study that Paul Bailey presented to us of where our rates stood amongst other municipalities. And we are the lowest by far. Even with this increase, even with a 32% increase, we are still lower than, and then Elmont, then Armada, there's several of our other neighboring communities.
Yeah, just wanted to point that out.
Nate, what's your water usage at your residence? How much do you pay?
At mine,
Yeah.
I'm the minimum. So I'm going to be taking the, I'm by myself, so.
What does that,
bring it over.
what does that have to do with?
I don't know, should I just answer the question she asked me?
All right. Is there any, you have somebody else?
They asked if you could speak up a little bit.
Okay. I'll try and bring that closer. All right. Is there anybody else for public comment in this hearing? All right, then I'm going to close the public hearing for the water and sewer rates. And then we have one more public hearing that we're going to hold, and that is on our 2020-21 budget and the millage rates. The proposed hearing, the tax levy for the general operating fund will stay the same as what we've always assessed, 12.7602. The general highway fund remains the same as it has been at 1.5 mils, and the addition of the cemetery millage of 0.75. So at this time, do we have anybody from the public that wishes to offer comment? No one? Okay, then I'm going to close the hearing on the budget and millage rates and open up our regularly scheduled Board of Trustees meeting. It is 7:24, Catherine. Would you all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Bartholomew?
Here.
Edwards?
Yes.
Fowler?
Yes.
Hart?
Here.
Poznanski?
Here.
Seidel?
Here.
President Malzahn?
Here.
All present?
All right, thank you very much. In your packets, you have several sets of minutes. You have the April 20th special meeting minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve the April 20th special meeting minutes as presented.
Oh, support.
We have a motion by Edwards. We have support by Seidel. Any discussion? All right, roll call on that, please.
Edwards?
Yes.
Seidel?
Yes.
Poznanski?
Yes.
Hart?
Yes.
Fowler?
Yes.
Bartholomew?
Yes.
President Malzahn?
Yes.
Motion carries.
In your packet, you have meetings from our regular Village Council meeting of April 20th. I have a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes from April 20th.
Support.
We have a motion by Edwards. We have support by Hart. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Edwards?
Yes.
Hart?
Yes.
Bartholomew?
Yes.
Fowler?
Yes.
Poznanski?
Yes.
Seidel?
Yes.
President Malzahn?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. At your table, when you arrived, you have minutes on the gold piece of paper. That is from our closed session that was held on Monday, April 20th. I have a motion to approve the closed session meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the closed meeting minutes for the 20th.
We have a motion by Hart,
Support.
support by Edwards. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Hart?
Yes.
Edwards?
Yes.
Bartholomew?
Yes.
Seidel?
Yes.
Fowler?
Yes.
Poznanski?
Yes.
President Malzahn?
Yes.
Okay, that's everybody. Motion carries.
I need to go back for a minute because I realized that I did not read off one submission of a comment that was emailed to me for the public notice on the property tax increase. So excuse me for that, but I did get an email. This was submitted to me from Debbie Obrecht, Bruce Township Treasurer. Please share the attached information with your council and public during your public hearing on your millage rate increase. In my 32 years as Township Treasurer, I have never responded to budget matters that the Village Council levies. However, based on the current economic conditions our county is currently facing, I wish to express concern over your proposed millage increase, in addition to increases on the water and sewer rates as well. I understand the water and sewer rates are primarily established based on the cost of treatment. There are a few options to cut costs in this area. However, there are ways to cut costs in overall operational costs for the village itself. I've attached a rough calculation for the Bruce Township Village of Romeo proposed tax increase. This equates to an additional average of $55.93 for village taxes per average household using the industrial real properties. Additionally, this tax increase does not include the overall calculation based upon all of the millage rates with the state of Michigan escalation factor of 1.019 for our 2020 tax roll. I will not have my preliminary 2020 tax roll amounts until June 5th of 2020. This calculation is based upon all real village parcels. Since I do not have the ability to eliminate the parcels that have business real property, 47.35% of the real parcels are homestead classification. The remaining are non-homestead, now referred to as principal residential exemptions. Using the entire real property tax roll for the Village of Romeo, this diluted real property number shows an increase of $55.93. To more accurately calculate the impact per household, I tried to do another calculation, eliminating the industrial business corridor at the end of the village tax roll. Please understand the tax rolls does not provide a data to directly calculate the exact impact per principal residential exemption. If I exclude the end of our roll, this included primarily the industrial section of the village, I have 726 parcels and 83.8% are principal residential exemptions. The 726 real parcels, 2019 taxable average is $89,515. At 14.5 mils equals taxes per year of $1,297.97, increasing the average taxable value by 1.019 equals $91,215 times 15.0102 mils equals $1,369.15. This calculation is more realistic, showing an average home would increase by $71.18 per year. I hope the council will reconsider based upon the fact the L4029 was already overstated for the 2019 tax collections. This was an overcollection of $13.06 per household and $11,539.36 overall. The increase shows an average of over $71 per year just for the Village of Romeo taxes. I respect the difficult financial times everyone is facing. However, tax increase at this time will only add to the financial hardships of our residents. Respectfully, Deb Obrecht. So, thank you for that. Again, I apologize for not reading that during the public hearing. So let me backtrack for a second. We did the minutes. We have the bills. So in your council packet, you have vendor bills in the amount of $18,842.63. And then you have the check register for $142,027.66. Do I have a motion to approve the bills as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve the bills as presented.
Support.
All right, we have a motion by Bartholomew. We have support by Hart. Is there any discussion?
I do have some questions.
I have one question. I noticed that you signed the check. Was our treasurer not available?
Probably not. She was on vacation several days, so I signed checks when she's not there.
Just thought I'd ask.
Okay.
Okay. Towards the top half, there's a couple checks for BS&A. There's one for $17,000 and one for $2,000. I know that we had some sort of yearly membership and something else. I'm just wondering what those two amounts are. Are we going to be incurring that much each year, or was
No, the final bill.
done?
Oh, I'm sorry to cut you off. The final billing for all the training sessions for the modules came in, and that's what that was. Now, going forward, our yearly BSNA bills will be significantly lower.
Okay, so both of those were for the training? Or
Yes.
So we'll still have a yearly membership for this year?
Correct, yes. We have a yearly membership as far as like yearly support fees that we have to pay just once a year per module.
Okay.
But yeah, that was for a couple different departments worth of training.
Okay,
3, I believe.
thank you.
Any other questions?
Speak into the mic.
Okay.
A little farther down, there is a bill to the Rock Muir Funeral Home. I'm curious, I've never seen a bill or a check to them before. I'm just curious what that is.
They paid a foundation for the same burial twice, and I had to refund them.
Ah, okay. And then again, a little farther down, I've never seen these names on here. There's 2 bills, Rosati, Schultz, Jopich. There's 2 checks for $245 each, $245, $245. What is that? Who are they?
Oh, he's the attorney that is helping the Village to City Committee.
Oh,
So,
okay.
mhm.
I guess I didn't know that we were using that. Oh,
Well, there's a conflict of interest since Mark owns real property here and general counsel. This particular attorney that I met with, along with James Vitrano, has experience helping several municipalities through this process. So I've invited him through the Village to City Committee initial meetings, and then it'll be up to the committee, upon the recommendation, who we work with further.
so we shouldn't see these again unless they send some work to him?
He's been attending the 2 he met with me independently, and then he met with the committee, the initial meeting.
Okay.
Yep. Zach, did you have any further discussion?
Yeah, so you mentioned about the hiring of a person. Is that what we needed that $10,000 for?
Whoops.
Of
Sorry,
the question
Zach.
Megan just asked?
I'm sorry, Zach. Can you say that again?
You said you hired this person to do the review of Village to City?
No, he's not reviewing anything. He's just consulting right now.
So is he getting paid to consult?
Yes, there's 2
Is that
invoices
where
for...
that $10,000 is going?
Yes,
Not 10,000 of it, Zach.
there were 2 invoices for $245.
He's actually an excellent resource from what I've understood so far, the meetings that he's attended with us. He's got really, really good input on both sides of the fence, so he's a very knowledgeable individual on the topic.
Anything else, Zach?
I just, even, as far as expenditures of that money, I thought it might have just been for the board, but I see you brought someone in from the outside. What was the results of the first meeting? Did we get any feedback?
The first meeting with me was an independent meeting. I met with him and James Vitrano just to see what his experience was and to get his input on how to walk through this process, what his experience proved successful or not successful with the Village of Chelsea that he helped through this process. The second meeting last Monday was more an introduction to everybody and some initial survey questions that were developed. So the committee members had questions particular that they wanted to draft and get answers to.
Are these meetings posted at the Village Hall?
Yes.
When they're going to occur?
Yes, and on our website.
And they're open.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Oh, that's it for that. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we had a motion and we had support to pay the bills. Again, $18,842.63, $142,027.66. Could you please call the roll?
Bartholomew?
Yes.
Hart?
Yes.
Edwards?
Yes.
Seidel?
Yes.
Poznanski?
Yes.
Fowler?
Yes.
Yeah, heard, okay. And President Malzahn?
Yes.
That's 7 votes yes.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, next up you have the approval of the agenda. I do have one addition. I need to add under new business the Gatsby report calculations from Watkins and Ross. So if I could add that to item H under new business.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with that addition, H, with Watkins.
All right, so we have a motion by Hart. Do we have support?
Support.
Support by Edwards. All in favor? Oh, wait, can't do all in favor.
No.
Roll call, sorry.
A question though.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, you have
I'm
a question?
wondering why the exploration committee isn't under committee reports.
They have nothing to report back at this time. They're just still developing their questions and getting their answers, so.
The village to city?
Yes.
Yeah, we had 2 meetings now. The first one was
It's not a
introductions and-
subcommittee of this board anyway, it's
Yeah.
just an independent ad hoc, so they technically wouldn't be reporting under committee reports.
Well, in the minutes, there's a motion to develop an exploration committee, so we established a committee and we gave it money, so it is a committee.
It'd be like the DDA, it's a separate committee. It's not a committee of our group, not part of our board.
Okay.
The
but
subcommittee-
We also have a planning, that we also have like an ex officio. So maybe
Just
we
like the
should
tree
have that
board.
on Officer reports or something?
Tree board reports wouldn't be on there until they have something, if they want to be on the agenda. Have something to report,
All right, that's why it's not on there,
yeah.
because they're just developing their questions and, yeah, getting answers.
The committee reports are generally us reporting on our committees.
Yes,
But we
that's,
also have a planning commission that speaks under officer reports. Maybe we should put it under there.
I don't think it's necessary to put it under there right now until they actually have something to report back.
Yeah, we're not in any position to bring anything to anybody yet.
Other than-
We've been given reams of reading material and subject matters to go over and kind of
Gathering information.
getting feedback from people that have run the gamut before, and, yeah, we're not,
Beginning stages.
yeah, we wouldn't, we report what we just did, that we've met 3 times. One was, twice. One was
Twice.
introductions, and tonight was really going through some of Vitrino's information that he's put together for us.
Maybe
So-
next month you can put something in there.
Yeah, we meet every Monday at 4 o'clock for an hour, so we'll have 4 more meetings in by next month. So we could possibly have a report out then.
Okay.
But,
Okay, so we have the roll call for the agenda adoption.
Hart,
Yes.
Edwards,
Yes.
Poznanski,
Yes.
Fowler,
Hello?
Yep. Zach, we're taking a roll call on the agenda.
Okay, yes.
okay. Bartholomew,
Yes.
Seidel,
yes.
President Malzahn,
Yes.
7 votes, 7-0.
Okay. Next up, we have correspondences. I have several. I've received an email from Macomb County Treasurer Larry Roca. Just wanted to let us know that during the economic hardship times, they are putting a moratorium on any business foreclosures, any properties, with the exception of properties that pose a threat to public health, safety, and welfare. Otherwise, they are not processing any foreclosures at the county level. I think we all received this email correspondence from Trustee Sam Pravetti, who was just announcing his campaign to run for supervisor in the fall, asking us for his support. So I'm assuming that you've all read that email. And then I just wanted to let you know that I have not received any correspondence from Washington Township. If anybody watched the Washington Township meeting of April 29th, Supervisor O'Leary mentioned my letter of correspondence that I set down there asking for exclusion from the Parks and Rec millage. He said that he had drafted a letter and I would be receiving it probably the next day. I still haven't received anything. So it was supposed to be an explanation of why their attorneys felt that they could not exclude the village from their proposal. So just so you know that I don't have anything from them. Oh, that's it for correspondence. Officer reports. If I could, my president's report for May 18th. 2020 census is still ongoing. The village has 76.6% of households accounted for, but we need to be at 100%. It's crucial that everyone is counted because the majority of the federal funding that we receive is tied to the number of residents. Those money includes for our roads, our schools, and our community block grant allocations. So please, if you have not responded, do it today. It's only 9 questions, takes less than 5 minutes, and the money goes a long way to helping this community. Stay here. As we wait and hope that Governor Whitmer will release the stay-at-home order soon, I'm working on our back-to-work safety plan. This includes installing plexiglass to the front counter area, developing a questionnaire that the residents will be required to answer upon entry, as well as providing safety and personal protection equipment for our staff and employees. The village offices are closed on Wednesdays through June 1st. We will reevaluate that once we hear an update on the executive order. I issued furloughs for a 3-week period for several employees. I have cut staffing hours to 32 for those that have specific job functions that are not covered by other coworkers. I have furloughed my salary to $100 per week. That was effective April 21st, just as a means to try and save some money, to be prudent. This should help us cut payroll expenses until we have a better understanding of how the state budget deficit will impact our revenues. I'm awaiting an update from the State Revenue Sharing Board on their plan to fund to fill the $3.1 billion deficit. There's rumors that they plan to keep any overpayment monies from the community stabilization funding instead of dispersing it to the local municipalities. They were supposed to meet, I believe, on the 18th, so hopefully we'll have some additional information coming soon. State legislators approved the HEROES Fund over the weekend, so we'll be submitting some documentation for our public safety essential workers in hopes of some reimbursement for payroll expenses incurred during this pandemic, but there's no guarantee. As of today, Romeo has 12 reported COVID cases with 3 deaths. There's an additional 17 cases and 4 deaths in Bruce Township and 76 cases and 3 deaths in Washington Township. There are many community resources for food available. If you are in need, please reach out to Samaritan House or attend a Forgotten Harvest pop-up pantry. Those are typically on Thursdays at St. Clement's Church in the village. We continue to utilize our Romeo Village Hall Facebook page to share information as it becomes available, so please follow that page if you're online. Sidewalk work is set to begin in the next week or so, weather permitting. I'm working with our contractor to coordinate addresses and notifications to the homeowners whose sidewalks have been identified as trip hazards. And if you watched the Washington Township Board meeting from April 29th, you will know that the board voted 6-1 to place on the August ballot a millage request for up to 0.75 mills to fund parks and recreation. This proposal does not tie into the adoption in Bruce Township, and it does allow Washington Township to decide annually how much tax to levy to support programming and services. They could choose to levy the full 0.75 mills that we currently pay, or they could decide not to levy any and withhold funding. At this time, I am recommending that residents vote yes on this proposal and vote no to the incumbents. That's my president's report.
Okay. The cemetery board met this past May 8th, which was a Friday morning. We only discussed a few items. Memorial Day parade unfortunately had to be canceled due to the COVID-19 virus going around. However, veterans flags have been ordered, and we do have if anybody's interested, we do have a bunch of volunteers who have already volunteered their time. Once the flags do arrive from the company we ordered them from, we will be still placing those on veterans' graves in honor of Memorial Day. Just won't be able to have a parade or a gathering. And we also discussed at the cemetery board meeting the 2020-21 budget projects that you heard the board discuss earlier in public hearing. That's all I have for a report, and I'm actually going to jump to, I talked to the treasurer before she exited the building today. She does not have a report, but she is available for questions on the ACH transaction policy, which is coming up on the agenda.
Do we have any trustee reports at this time? No. Zach, did you have any trustee report at this time?
I have been approached by a lot of residents, and their biggest concern is, we're in the middle of a pandemic, and that at this time there shouldn't be any increase in taxes or raises anywhere. And I just had to relay that because a lot of people are saying this to me, and I'm not sure if it's hitting on the right ears on this board, but I need to say it.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay. Perfect.
The DDA installed the new benches downtown, or the DPW installed them for the DDA. They look great, so now we have new benches, clean up garbage cans, so one more step in the right direction.
Yes, they look great. And it's lovely to see so many families out when the sun is out. Not on rainy days today, but downtown and enjoying those new benches, so yes.
And the banners.
The
Yeah,
spring
schools.
banners are up, yep. So
Beautiful.
again,
Great.
trying to be, I'm not sure, I was going to check with Lisa Hall to see when the flowers are being installed. Usually between sometime in the next 2 weeks, do you know?
I want to say June, beginning of June, but I
Okay.
don't recall
I
for
didn't
sure.
have a date either, but hopefully soon. That'll perk things up as well. The Planning Commission didn't meet, so I'm assuming we have no ex officio report, is that correct?
Yeah, I just, one question regarding this is that, has Jim been invited to the city village meeting?
I'm sorry,
Chairman Stagner?
what city village meeting? The village
Well,
to city committee?
Your board that you said have met twice so far, or virtually.
He's not serving on that committee? There is
Well, I
a,
didn't ask for serving, but shouldn't he be involved as far as,
he is a planning commission member that's serving on that committee. And so that person, when there's a report back, would report back to the planning commission appropriately.
and which member is that?
Tom Stevens.
That's convenient. Okay.
All right, let's move on to unfinished business. We have our AT&T lease. All right, so I have a couple of emails that I do need to read for this agenda item. I know that Mr. Brian Monahan is attending our Zoom meeting, so he'll be there to answer any questions on behalf of AT&T. So I have an email that I received Sunday about 3:30 in the afternoon from Daniel Baker and Bridget Stern to the Romeo Village Trustees. We, Daniel Baker and Bridget Stern, live on 441 Minot Street around the corner from the water tower and proposed antennas. We have looked at the rental contract that the village is considering signing, and we have a number of serious concerns. It appears that a generator will be installed on the property to supply power to this operation. This raises concerns about noise in the neighborhood. Number two, from the contract, the tenant has the right, at no additional cost, to install, modify, supplement, replace, upgrade, expand the communication facility, including, for example, increasing the number of antennas or adding microwave dishes, or relocate the communication facility within the premises at any time during the term. This sounds like blanket permission to expand the planned operation in an arbitrary and, to us, frightening manner. There are no drawings included of the planned installation per contract Exhibit 1, and we feel it is absolutely necessary for us to see these drawings before any approval is made. In addition, we would like to see a drawing of the proposed area that will be made available for use, with the location of any proposed new buildings or antennas, as well as any potential area that might be leased in the future. It is difficult for us to determine what, if any, limits exist in this contract for expansion and future development by the tenant. This rental contract is long and technical, but we are not lawyers. But the simple observations above lead us to suspect the contract was written by the tenant and provided to the village for signature. This proposal will bring in a large amount of money, $2,500 per month, and we feel that it warrants hiring an attorney to work with the village and any concerned neighbors in providing a rental contract that protects the interests of the village and all its residents. We urge the village to rethink this process before making any such long-term commitment. Finally, we feel that it is inappropriate to consider any such proposals in the current time of pandemic, when movement and the ability of residents to personally participate in such proceedings is limited. Sincerely, Daniel Baker and Bridget Stern. The second one is from Penny Hinson, sorry, Penny. President Malzahn, attached is my response regarding the communication facility. Please read at the May 18th meeting. Penny lives at 382 Morton Street, Romeo, Michigan, 48065. Her email was sent on May 17th, yesterday at 1:41 in the afternoon. President Malzahn and trustees, I find this lease agreement frightening. You will be giving Singular Wireless and AT&T a blank check to do whatever they want to. In a message to President Malzahn, she stated to me that this agreement is not for a cell tower. This may be true for the initial installation. However, if you read under permitted use, it states, The tenant has the right to install, modify, supplement, replace, upgrade, expand, including increasing the number of antennas or adding microwave dishes, or relocate within the premises at any time. In the event the tenant desires to modify or upgrade in a manner that requires an additional portion of the property, the landlord agrees to lease additional premises. Not only does this sound like permission for a cell tower or possible future 5G upgrade, but when I asked President Malzahn to define additional premises, I received no reply. On the copy of the lease agreement, she shared with me the portion defining premises was blank. I find this agreement alarming, as it will have a very negative effect on our property values. It will be unsightly, may interfere with other aspects, such as static to our devices. Also, I find it very unfair that our village representatives would hold this meeting when COVID-19 pandemic doesn't allow the surrounding residents to voice concerns in person. Some of our neighbors do not have access to respond in the way you are conducting the meeting. I've lived here for 30 years. I live directly across the street from Parks and Recreation Department. I am sickened that you would even consider this agreement. Please do not ruin our neighborhood. The Parks and Recreation area is not the place for a cell tower. So both of those emails were received yesterday afternoon, Sunday afternoon. This morning by 9:30, I submitted to both of them copies of the site plan and the structural analysis so that they would be able to see those. I also recapped the process that we put in place, that this has been 2+ years in the making, that we hired an independent lawyer and engineering firm, Dixon Engineering, to read that lease contract and to offer independent analysis of it. We also utilized our current legal counsel, of course, through the subcommittee and negotiated the lease that you have in front of us. So Catherine put on the on our website, the structural plans. The file for the site plan was too large to go on our Facebook. So if anybody wants them, I have them. You all have a copy from your packet before.
From a year ago, right?
Right, nothing changed. This is the same site plan that the Planning Commission reviewed and approved, with the exception of wanting some screening bushes around the generator. They realized that there may be an unsightly or something to maybe sort of shield any noise that generator would emit, so.
And the generator is wind power.
Yeah, the generator doesn't run 24/7. Right. The generator runs when everyone else's generators are running, right? I mean, it's something that's an emergency.
Mm-hmm. So it's very unfortunate. Obviously, I have no control over this pandemic. I have no control over when the governor is going to allow us to meet back in public, if she's ever going to meet us back in public. Right. But AT&T said to me after we tabled it at our April meeting that they wanted a response by no later than May 18th, one way or the other. That if we did not vote one way or the other, up or down, they, obviously are going to accept our decision, the decision of this body. But if they did not have a yes or no, then they were going to walk. So I thought it was, I had no option but to go ahead and put it on the agenda for this evening.
And that's a fair position for them to take.
And we can address it.
A year and a half, we had put on the committee, I don't even know, year and a half ago, and we've had many of people's opportunities to come and speak with us, and they've been here. So yeah, I think it's unfair to say we're sneaking this in under the pandemic. It's not. This is not the first time this has come up. This has been on this board's agenda for well over a year. Well over a year, involving lawyers, involving engineers, involving experts that have come in front of us and talked to us. So it's unfair to say that it's being snuck in, whether you're for it or not. It's not being snuck in under a pandemic.
Right. I did issue letters to all the residents over a week ago. I gave them the information to, join the meeting through Zoom, to watch it on Facebook Live, and I gave them the option to email me direct if they had any questions throughout the week up until 5 o'clock today, so that I could make sure that I had them printed for tonight's meeting. So, I wanted to make sure that they had every opportunity, and obviously I, received a few communications back and forth. Just to try and keep them updated as much as possible. In the month since we tabled it at last month, in most of that decision, tabling it was because there was some question on what the word upgrade meant, and we were asked to clarify what's reasonable. Does the village have any latitude to say, no, thank you, we don't want you to upgrade anything? And so Mr. Clark negotiated with Mr. Wells from AT&T. They agreed to change some language in the lease, which is what's underlined on the front page there of your lease. Structural modifications made to the water tower structure only and not the equipment shelter shall require prior approval of the landlord. So we did put some language in there so that they just don't have the latitude to go and do whatever. They have to give us some notification of what they're doing. I received a lot of comment and a lot of concern through social media and through my inbox over this whole 5G. You can see that I included a letter from the federal FCC. They're the ones that control 5G technology. It's not mandated. It's, you know, we as a small village can't say yes to 5G technology, and Mr. Clark can verify that. Not to throw you under the bus, but if anybody's going to fight against 5G, it's going to be, you know, a big municipality with a bunch of little small lawsuits. The thing about 5G that people have to understand, that one, what they're proposing that they're installing on top of this tower is not 5G. This is 4G technology. They do anticipate that 5G would come to the village, but it won't be through the antenna that's on top of the water tower. That 5G network takes a tower or an antenna, and it triangulates every 1,000 feet or so with a little module. Those modules are being installed in the right-of-way permits. That permit is issued by the state of Michigan. So the Village of Romeo has no latitude to go in and say, AT&T, I don't want you to put that over here in your right-of-way. They have the ability to do that through the state level. So we can certainly reach out to all of our state legislators, you know, whoever we can, if we hear that 5G is coming. I've read supportive things and I've read very scary things. I don't really know what to think, but right now it is not 5G. I'm satisfied with the response that I got, that antenna that goes with this lease right now is not 5G, could never be 5G technology on its own. And I think that's what's important to remember when we consider any other, you know, concerns about some health.
Yeah, and a couple things I had found is when 5G does come, it doesn't mean the 4G goes away. They're still, it's not to make our cell phones faster, it's a lot of other technologies and things that they see. And as of a couple months ago, there is some 5G downtown Detroit and then over in Grand Rapids. But at this time, it's very expensive to operate that because you need to have so many repeaters. So probably still being in a rural area, just like people waiting forever to get cable, we're going to probably be later on that coming, but it's going to come without it.
Yeah, we have no control over when it comes or it coming at all, so.
Correct.
Question, if we were to turn this down, what would stop them from going over to the schools and right over here and just putting their own up, dealing with somebody else?
Nothing.
So that's my fear, is if we turn this down, because this is where they need this, is right in here. Then they're going to go right over there to the old ball fields or whatever, and Penny would see it even much more.
Because it would be an independent tower.
It would be an independent tower, so we'd have an additional one there.
Right.
Yeah.
And it could even, they go to the municipalities first, but they could actually go to a home. And for the price that they're paying for rent, you could almost buy a house and and make $25,000 a year and put an antenna in your
So I think those are some serious concerns that we need to take into consideration, for sure.
And again, from the drawings we talked about from a year ago, you know, the antennas are, I think, mainly 3 foot or 5 foot that are just going to be like a crown on top of our water tower. So it was the best option and less impact.
We can try to talk this down and make this sound as good as we want it to try and convince the people that this is a good thing. But the people voted for us to come in here and speak for them. And they have come in multiple times. Like you said, this isn't the first meeting. And we've had rooms full of people come in and stand up and say, no, no. And yet we've continued. And here we are trying to tell them, no, we know better. No, listen to your people.
No,
they don't want this.
we've had people come in and express their concerns, and we've addressed every single concern they've
Just because
expressed.
you address it doesn't mean you push it to the side and keep going.
We didn't push
A
it to
year
the
ago,
side, we
had
addressed it.
consensus. A year ago,
It's
I
funny,
thought it
2
was
years
put
ago,
together.
we all voted no.
The people.
We didn't have the information.
We all voted no.
'Cause we
What
didn't
changed?
have-
What
That was a
changed
tower.
all of your minds?
That was a
The people
tower.
came and told us they
was a
didn't want
tower.
this.
That was
They're
a
still
tower.
saying no.
And we voted no. We thought it would be ugly. That was a tower.
So just because it's going to look different, you can
That
tell the
was
people,
the
hey,
big complaint.
your opinion doesn't matter anymore.
That was a
We're
big
right. We
complaint.
know better.
That was a big complaint, was the look. So that's where
It
this
sounds like they still don't
And
want it, Bob.
A year ago, we were in a public meeting, and we had an expert that was here addressing all the questions to the people here. and
Absolutely. An
everything was
expert
addressed.
paid for by AT&T. So I
The
find that
residents-
expertise a little
Okay,
skewed.
it's a public meeting, you can go back and look. The residents were satisfied that came to the meeting.
Oh,
In fact, the majority of them, I have their letters in my drawer in my office, that they said, we appreciated the fact that you gave us the information. We no longer have any objections.
That is, yes.
In fact,
that
I
is
have
true.
an email from
But
one
yet
of
we
them
have
today.
two more
two.
people saying
Yes.
no.
we do.
And we
Yes,
have
we do.
multiple people saying no.
We have 2 people that have,
2 people that wrote in. Seriously, have you not talked to people?
yes, I have talked to
I've
people.
talked
said-
to a lot. They don't
And
have a
everyone
problem.
says, sure, yeah, go ahead, let's do this.
Yep.
I don't think so.
They use AT&T and they use Sprint, and they like having good service.
You can't
There's
lump
two
the-
sides
some
to
of-
this.
I recall the meeting, a couple meetings where they came in. When they came initially, they were concerned, and they had a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And then some of them did some research. I believe even Mrs. Fraunfelter was one that said, you know what? We did some research, we're fine with it. So some of them actually changed their minds.
Yeah. And the things I've heard was 5G.
Kinda like you guys, huh?
I've
Not
heard,
all of them.
every comment that I've heard that was negative, it was 5G.
And you can't compare 2 years ago to now. One was a tower, Brent, just like we talked about 5 minutes ago, they're going to stick it in at the high school regardless. It's going to go up, and this solution is a hybrid. It's not ignoring our constituents, it's not ignoring our people. It's going to happen. This is a way to make it happen where you don't see it, or it's very minimal intrusion to the aesthetics of the village. So I think we are listening to what the people are saying. We've changed our mind. We've stopped the tower. We've modified the plan. We've listened to the experts.
Yep.
I think we are doing exactly what we were elected to do.
I have an email from this afternoon at 2:39 from a Sue Blake, a resident up on Morton Street, who said, I have no objection to putting an antenna on the existing water tower. I do object to have a meeting when public participation is not allowed, and that this critical circumstance that we live in won't allow live participation. Again, I don't have any control over the pandemic and what the governor has restricted us for public meetings, but I'm telling you that I have spoken to people on both sides, and the objections that we heard overwhelmingly are not there now.
And out of all the residents, she lives the closest.
They're the closest.
Yeah.
Yes.
She shares the parking lot.
So if is there any further discussion here? I'm going to turn Zach on, and then I think Mr. Monahan wants to address the board. So do you have Brian Monahan turned on from, oh.
Is that Brian or?
That was Zach. I can hear you, Zach. I can hear you just fine.
Go ahead, Zach.
Can hear you.
Right. Do you have any other input, Zach? Hello? Is Zach muted, or?
Oh, I can hear him.
We can hear him.
Yes.
So the muting would be coming from our end.
Sherry says she can't hear us, so I don't know.
PC just blacked out.
Oh.
Just reconnecting into the meeting.
Can he call?
Okay.
Well, we can't tell him to call because he can't hear us.
Hold up the cell phone.
Right.
Call.
Get the lights back in.
I can hear you, yep. Can you hear me? Okay, are you guys back in?
Everybody out there in the twilight zone can hear us. We can't hear them.
Was he saying we're in the twilight zone?
Okay.
Maybe if we have this antenna thing,
We'll have our own meeting.
Do not attempt to adjust your dial. There we go.
Back on?
Hello.
Hello?
All of us were out in the twilight zone.
Zach, do you have any input on this AT&T issue?
Majority of us didn't hear a word what was going on.
Okay.
But we had good conversations without you guys, and you guys had a conversation without us.
Well, I'm not sure how to recap what actually just transpired.
Read any of the correspondence?
Byron had a
Would you like me
good
to put it
question, and Byron,
I'm sorry? What was that?
I said one of the viewers had a question. She wanted to hear what was going on. Well, all the viewers wanted to hear what was going on.
Okay, well, did you hear the letters that I read? At what point did you
No.
guys cut out?
We heard the letters. Brian was going to speak, but he needs to unmute himself.
Yes. Okay, so you heard the conversation then?
Yeah, this is Brian. Yeah, we heard your emails. We heard a lot of the conversation. We just lost you about 4 or 5 minutes ago.
Okay. So we were just discussing Megan was expressing her concerns that we had residents who came 2 years ago, and the board voted no on the tower project. I don't want to speak. You want to recap what you said? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but.
not just only 2 years ago, but also the ensuing meeting that we've had multiple times. The community has come and voiced their concerns that they did not want this.
We can't hear you, Megan.
You can or you cannot?
I can't. I'm gonna have to eat the microphone if I get
know.
any closer.
Can you hear her now?
No.
How about now?
How about now?
Got you loud and clear.
Okay.
I don't know what else to do. It's on, right?
Right. Her microphone is on.
Can you hear me, Zach? Zach, do you hear me?
I hear your feedback.
Hello?
Hello?
Hello? Do you get my
Christine,
feedback?
We can hear you loud and clear.
I think it was Megan, though.
No, I think they just got you.
This is frustrating.
This is Megan Poznansky. Do you hear me?
They've only got Christine. Because even when
He
Bob
wasn't
says
hear a word
something,
she
they didn't
said.
have him.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Christine's talking into her computer, and that's why they're hearing them, or if it's
the
actually
microphone.
quote unquote going through the microphone. But I wouldn't bet it's going through the computer.
Nothing's muted. Okay.
But he couldn't hear me either.
No, because you're too far away from her computer.
Right.
Right.
It's not coming through the microphone.
No one can hear the meeting.
Zach's actually talking to you.
Well, Christine, can you give us a recap of, since we can't hear her?
Can you hear me? Zach?
Hello? Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're going in and out now.
Can you hear this microphone?
There you go. Now you can hear you.
So he heard me? Yes. Okay. Now you're probably on.
Okay. So, to recap, we read the letters. Mr. Monahan and Kelly Stevens confirmed that they heard that over the feed. I guess there's some sound feedback issues that we're going to have to work on to improve for the next meeting, but let's just try and finish up this meeting. Trustee Poznansky had some concerns that the residents had come before us and expressed their choice to not have us proceed with this. And I said that some of those residents, after that follow-up meeting when the expert from AT&T was here, since contacted me and have changed their opinion. They no longer object to the antenna. They objected to the cell tower and the aesthetics of the cell tower, but not to the antenna being placed on top of the water tower. And that includes an email that I received this afternoon from Sue Blake, who said that she doesn't have any opposition to the cell tower. She just is concerned that the public participation isn't allowed at this meeting. But again, with the COVID pandemic and the governor's executive orders, I don't think we have any choice in how we can conduct this meeting. Did that recap it okay for you, Josh? I mean, Zach?
You just got a lot of feedback.
Okay. Maybe I should not talk so close. I don't think Brian's
speaking. So can you unmute Brian?
okay.
Ms. Malzahn, thank you for the recap.
Okay. So did you have any input, Brian? Mr.
Yeah, if I
Monahan?
could, I thought you did a wonderful job addressing some of the issues raised in the emails, so I don't want to repeat anything. I will, however, break that rule. I do want to reiterate the issue with structural modifications and what appeared to be in the initial lease, some sort of carte blanche to change and make things, put different things up on the tower. That was changed, and that's the redlined, underscored portion of the lease that the mayor or that the village president pointed out. That was worked out with Mark Clark, the village attorney, and that's quite a change that AT&T typically doesn't make, but had agreed to in this instance. The bottom line is, if we want to put anything other than what's on the site plans on that tower, we're going to need the village's approval. So I think that's a big change, very big change. The only other thing I'll address, the generator that's shown on the plans, that's for emergency power outages only. The site does have electric and phone utility. So it's the generator isn't on all the time. It's only on when there's a power outage. Other than that, if there's some specific question, I'd be happy to address it. We've been working with the village for a very, very long time. This is a big, huge hole in AT&T's service in the area. When we quite frankly think this solution is literally a win-win.
Any questions for Mr. Monahan? Any questions for Mr. Monahan? Okay, I'll remember to turn. I got too many things to turn on and off.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, is this price the best that you can do?
Is that for me?
Yes, sir.
Yes. And quite frankly, you're getting a very high price. We pay considerably less in municipalities that are actually pretty close to you.
Okay. Well, Romeo is a very desired area, and apparently you really want this
I
spot.
agree. I actually live very close to Romeo. I actually live in Oakland Township, just down the road. But yes, this is the best we can do, and it is considerably more than we pay elsewhere.
Romeo isn't elsewhere.
That's why we're paying more.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
Zach, do you have any further input?
I'm good.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion that we approve and have me execute the structural lease agreement with AT&T as presented.
I'll support.
So we have a motion by Malzahn, President Malzahn. We have support by Hart. Can you please call a roll?
President Malzahn?
Yes.
Hart?
Yes.
Seidel?
Yes.
Bartholomew?
Yes.
Fowler?
No.
Edwards?
No.
Yes.
Poznansky?
No.
That's 7 votes. I'm sorry, 7 votes were taken, 5-2.
Okay, moving on quickly to our sign ordinance. This is just a revisit from last month. You had this in your packet. Mr. Clark reformatted it to fit the proper way that it would flow with our other ordinances. It's just resubmitted for your final approval for adoption for the sign ordinance.
All right, I'll make a motion that we adopt the sign ordinance with those changes as presented.
I'll second that motion.
So we have a motion by Hart, we have support by Seidel. Roll call, please.
Did we need to have a public hearing on this when we're changing a zoning ordinance? Is that in the ZB? The ZB, what is it called? Do you know, Mark?
No, because it's not zoning related.
It's called amending this.
But it's not zoning.
We're amending the zoning ordinance of the Village of Romeo.
You're amending the zoning ordinance. My recollection is the Planning Commission had a hearing on this, and the recommendations came from the Planning Commission.
For adoption.
For adoption.
So we didn't have the hearing, they had the hearing.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. Roll call then?
Hart,
Yes.
Seidel,
Yes.
Bartholomew,
Yes.
Poznanski,
Yes.
Edwards,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
President Malzahn.
Yes.
7-0.
Okay. You have directed me at the last meeting to start working on 2 marijuana ordinances. So I've been studying marijuana law. I've read probably about a dozen municipalities' ordinances. It was actually kind of difficult to find recreational, since that's new. There's tons of medical marijuana ordinances out there, but I cut, pasted, copied from various groups, and then I put together the draft copy that you see in front of you. I sent it on to Mr. Casson for his input, and I have incorporated his changes into these. I also sent it on to Mr. Clark, who has some technical changes. He hadn't had time to address and incorporate them into here, but he didn't think that it, at this point, would change the substance. I really just wanted to get these to you for review so that you would have a month or so to look at this, to read it, to study it. It needs to go before the Planning Commission. So they are going to schedule a Zoom meeting on June 4th. They'll be addressing a site plan review for Clinton Street, and then also the marijuana ordinance. I did include at your table a copy of this review magazine that came. This is perfect timing because it's all about marijuana and making the right decision for our community. So I thought there were some very good articles. So if you would all please just read this magazine, please review the ordinances, and then we can have really a frank discussion next month, hopefully based on some input from the Planning Commission, because they will also have to hold a public hearing to amend the zoning before we can opt in. So unless there's any other discussion on this agenda item, we can just sort of have it for review.
You mentioned Clinton Street site plan. What's going on?
I believe that they've submitted a site plan, and you should be getting notification. The Melrose?
You mean the people that we turned down the zoning for, request before?
Yes.
They submitted another proposal?
Is it?
You're looking at rezoning property, is that what I'm understanding?
Not me, it's not my job, it's the Planning Commission.
Say what?
It's the Planning Commission. It's the Planning Commission. So I've worked with Jim Stegner to schedule a Zoom meeting so that you can schedule a Planning Commission meeting on June 4th to review the marijuana and the site plan that the Meldrums have submitted.
So this got turned down the first time. Why is it back again?
It's a different
Right,
zoning.
it's a different proposal.
They're asking for a different zoning.
It's residential property.
Right, and they're asking for multifamily residential.
Like I said, it's residential property, period. It should have got turned down at the counter.
Yep, it's a planning commission meeting.
That's illegal. I can't do that unless we want another lawsuit.
Well, you're gonna get one, period. I mean, this is ridiculous. The only way you're going to make this happen, and I see how you're putting these pieces together as far as this village to city thing, you must rezone that property. And I keep telling residents, this is where they're gonna come through. So now you're making that attempt again.
How can you connect those two, Zach?
You're trying to rezone residential property, period.
No, we're not. You have to honor the request.
Why is it back on the table? It shouldn't even be back on the table.
It's not back on the table.
They bought
It's
residential
new.
property, period.
It's new.
Build a house
Maybe
on
you
it.
need to speak louder into your mic because it's new.
Zach, this board and what happens in the village offices, we have a duty and a response to all of our residents. They have submitted a site plan, they have submitted an application. We have a duty to pass that application to the right body that's going to make the decision. That's the Planning Commission. So Mr. Casson and Mr. Stegner are scheduling a Planning Commission. Whatever you guys decide on your board, that's your vote. That's your work and your decision. It has nothing to do with me or this board unless we are presented with an option to either deny or overturn a decision. And that's actually by the ZBA, again, not even by this board. So I'm not sure what you're referring to when you say that we're trying to do some sort of closed backdoor deal. We were presented with a site plan. They've paid the money for the application.
Backdoor deal.
We have a duty to make sure that that gets before the Planning Commission.
For those votes, period. I mean, you can mute me off all you want. That is wrong, period.
Okay.
Following the law is wrong and giving them, just doing our due diligence based on the law?
Leave the residents alone. Leave single-family residents alone. Don't worry, you'll pay for it in November.
Who said we were trying to change anything?
Okay, I don't think the board meeting is appropriate for threats, Zach?
Just ask him if he's got anything else.
Zach,
I have a
do you have
question.
anything else regarding the marijuana ordinance? Yes.
I'm trying to differentiate between which one I'm on here.
It's right in the top little corner. This one says medical right here, and the other one says recreational.
Okay. I'm on recreational.
Yes.
Well, I assume then okay, I want to talk about the establishing a competitive process, how we will select the applicants. I didn't notice in here how many we wanted to offer. Is that something we're still mulling over? And I didn't quite gather how they would be selected. I saw that they had to turn in a lot of stuff.
So the amount is right here under section 4, paragraph B, type of establishment, and it says marijuana growers 2, and then class A, class B, class C, 2 processors, 0 micro businesses, 0 retailers, 2 compliance establishments, and 2 transporters. Do you see that?
Yeah, so that's what you're proposing?
Well, that's what I put in there.
Okay. So 2 growers.
Whether or not I'm saying that's the right amount, I don't know. I just drafted the ordinance.
All of this would be over and in the industrial district, just to be clear?
Well, this would be wherever the zoning was adopted by the Planning Commission. Again, it's up to them to change the zoning and make a recommendation to this board, so.
It's only a recommendation, right?
Correct,
I mean, it would
yes.
still, they could recommend, and it would still have to come in front of us to approve.
Right.
Yes.
So we're not even close to this being done
Right.
in someone's backyard.
But there is a special, for permitted locations in section 6, it also talks about where specific locations should be done.
Okay, yes.
So,
What would be also trying to read that, what is the competitive process for getting these?
I haven't even looked at that process or what opt-in, opt-out language would look like. Right now, I just focused on getting an ordinance drafted so that everybody could have some input to say, do we want this? Do we want this in that area? How many do we want? And then if we say yeah, then we can look at the next step to figure out how we would go about getting
Okay.
that.
I just want to make sure I wasn't missing that somewhere. I mean, there's a whole multiple pages on what they need to include, but then I didn't see the next step of how they were picked. So I didn't know if
Yes.
I was missing it or we just hadn't gotten there yet.
Just didn't do
Okay,
anything.
Thank you.
Nope. Any other input on the marijuana? Okay. By the way, I did follow up with the proposal that we heard a couple months ago, just to let him know that we're working on this, that we just haven't put it aside. So they're very anxious to get some input in as well. So, okay, get rid of my magazine. Okay, so now we're on to new business. We have the cemetery millage. Let's see if I can find. So, I'm going to make a motion for the approval of a cemetery levy of .75 mils of ad valorem property taxes to be levied for the purposes for which that millage is being instituted.
Support?
So we have a motion by President Malzahn. We have support by Edwards. Is there any further discussion?
Before you discuss or take a vote on this, I have a question. It's a mathematical question. There was included in your package a portion of the opinion I had expressed about your ability to levy the millage, and that stays. That's not an issue. Mine is just simply one of math. As you can see from the portion of the opinion that I expressed out of the statute MCL 69.4, it says for the maintenance, you can, if you choose, levy a general tax not exceeding 1/10 of 1%. And so my question is, and I apologize if this is mathematically ignorant, but my question is, as you deliberate over this, is .75 mils the same as 1/10 of 1% of the taxable value of the property? Okay, as long, I just didn't want there to be an issue where the translation into the millage exceeds the statutorily allowable amount.
Good catch.
Slightly over 1 mil is the max.
My question is, we're raising this for maintenance. You told me we only needed 42,000 for the current. I know that there will be more.
No, the
But
42,000, oh, I'm sorry, I keep cutting you off, go right ahead.
why do we need this much if this is just for maintenance?
No, the 42,000 is not for maintenance. The 42,000 would be for capital projects or anything over and above maintenance, like new equipment and other projects we talked about. It takes roughly $80,000 to $100,000 a year just to maintain the cemetery through maintenance and burial digs, and when we utilize DPW for all the burials and whatnot.
Okay, because that just didn't, those two numbers were very skewed, very far away from each other. That didn't make sense to me.
Yep, that's our hope for like capital savings.
Zach, do you have any discussion points on the cemetery millage?
I just think at this time, we don't need to increase the budget anywhere. But obviously, you guys are going to do this anything, so, no.
Okay, roll call, please.
President Malzahn?
Yes.
Edwards?
Yes.
Bartholomew?
Yes.
Seidel?
Yes.
Poznanski?
No.
Fowler?
No.
Hart?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-2.
All right. At this time on our agenda, we have the utility rates. Oops, utility rates. Sorry, I have so many papers.
Did that need to pass by majority or two-thirds?
Two-thirds.
Two-thirds.
So I don't think it passes.
Is 2-5 two-thirds? Again, math.
Five,
I don't know.
5 is two-thirds. Yes, that's my understanding. Okay, so the water rates. I'm going to make a motion that the proposed water, wastewater, and miscellaneous rates as proposed in the attached rate schedule are adopted effective for billings on and after July 1st of 2020. Those numbers include, for water, 4.35 rate per 1,000 gallons. For water from Great Lakes Water Authority, 7.96. For water outside the village, 0 to 50,000 gallons, 9.27. Water outside the village users, 50,000 to 99,000 gallons, 12.32. Wastewater sewer, 0 to 10,000 gallons, 11.29. Wastewater sewer, 10,000 to 99,000 gallons, 7.90. And the only fee that changed in the miscellaneous rate schedule was a rental deposit per unit of $250.
I'll support.
So we have a motion by President Malzahn. We have support by Hart. Any other discussion?
I do have a question that the minutes, at the last meeting when we approved to have this, that the minutes support this. When Bob made the motion, he stated increase of 12.308% to water and 27.09 to sewer. Can you walk me through it? Where's the 12.3? And then I'm also seeing an added 28.63. He didn't state that part.
It's the total if you add together.
Add which parts?
Water and sewer and maintenance together to get to the totals. It's on a rate, it's broken down because users use numerous rates depending on what service they get. So when you make the motion based off the calculations on these individual rates, what those presented forward on the totals. That makes sense.
I just want to make sure that our minutes are supported, that we supported this correctly.
Yes, this is the breakdown. What you were given at the board meeting was the broad totals. This is the breakdown by each individual rate that supported the totals back to the totals at the prior board meeting.
Okay.
So if you add them all up, you would come to the total percentage that was at the last board meeting. But not every user does, not every customer uses the same. Some are
Correct.
inside the lot, some are outside, some are industrial and use Great Lakes water, some are inside and use, village water. So
Yes, correct.
you just get the total percentage. These are the breakdown.
Zach, do you have any discussion
on the wastewater rate schedule?
Like I said before, it's not the right time to raise anybody's rates and increase taxes, period.
Okay, thank you.
I can't, sorry.
Sorry, no, I was turning it back on. I'm on and off. Go ahead.
I would like to say, to Zach's point, now is not the right time to be going this high. Do we need to support our infrastructure? Yes, we all sat through that presentation, correct? We saw those real numbers. But to rip the Band-Aid off at a time when our community is hemorrhaging, they're going out for free food multiple times a week. Our unemployment is at record time high, Depression era highs. We are talking, our federal government is talking about a second stimulus check. But here we are ripping a Band-Aid off and going way higher than we need to. This is, have some compassion for our people.
I think we are having compassion for our people, and the reason I say that is if we don't do something now, if we don't support this infrastructure and our constituents, the ones that, you say no to everything when it comes to a budget, you can't do that. You have to support the infrastructure. I know none of us are going to go bail out someone's toilet when it backs up into their kitchen or backs up down the hall into their baby's bedroom, and that's what we're up against. We're up against an infrastructure that's probably running at 50% of its capability. Most of the equipment is probably at 90% of its life cycle. We are doing our customers a disservice if we don't do this. No, I don't want to raise taxes. I had my paycheck cut too. I understand this, but you have to, and maybe tearing the Band-Aid off isn't the right analogy, but you can't sit back, put your head in the sand and go, we're not going to touch anything. We're not going to raise anything $1. You're doing a disservice. Because I guarantee
for now. We could put this off till next year.
No,
Like
you
said, we revisit a budget every year.
You can't.
We could come back and see where our community is at that point.
You can't. What does Al tell us? Al tells us every meeting that he's limping along.
Right.
He doesn't tell you, we can make it, we're good. No, he says we're limping along.
But what are you going to do when these people can't pay?
What is your solution?
You can't get water out of an empty well, and when they turn around and they can't pay this bill that's going to come, what are you going to start turning everything off?
If we have a catastrophic,
and then you're still going to end up with a budget that's off because they're not going to be able to pay the money to us.
But if you don't address this and we have a catastrophic failure, what's the impact to our
I'm
residents?
not saying to not address it. I'm saying not to address it.
You are saying to not address it.
If I may speak, I am saying not to address it at this rate of an increase at this time.
So what is an alternative then?
We were given an alternative.
What was it?
Half the amount.
It's not an, I don't, well, okay.
And what that does is it just compounds the issue. We should have been addressing this 10 years ago. 10 years ago, we should have been addressing
Well, where were all of you? We were all on the board here.
I know, and leadership, what do you want to say? What do you want to say? Where was our funding and things going? I was on the board.
So if
I kept on asking for a 3-year budget to be able to project and things. I've been very concerned about this. This is being fiscally responsible, and to kick the can down the road is not, and it compounds.
If this was normal times where people were getting paychecks normally, that would be a different story.
In 2 months, we're going to see things going there, and an increase of $100 a year for a resident, $130,
It's not though, because we just increased 50 a few months ago by putting on the $12.
I think you also have to take into account the situation with Ford.
Yes.
We must start putting aside money now, because if we do in fact lose Ford in 2 years' time, the biggest user on our system, then that's going to be even a bigger increase because, again, we have to protect that asset. We have to have some money set aside so that we may not have to increase across the board for a $140,000 deficit because we've lost our biggest user. So I understand that this is
and that's
a very icky
$240,000
time,
a year.
right? You're right. It's not fair. It's not safe. But if, God forbid, something happened, pipe broke on Benjamin Street and the sewer was going up in your basement, you would want us to be able to come over there and fix it. And I'm saying to you, there is no money to do that. We must be prudent. We must be fiscally minded. And I point out, the very first budget workshop, when this fund showed a $430,000 deficit, you called us out saying we were being fiscally irresponsible for overspending. And I'm telling you right now, this fixes that problem. We will not be operating in the red anymore because the rates are where they need to be.
If I just would remind everyone, even with this increase, we're still the cheapest water around,
right,
Romeo.
And literally, if you just go on and you search municipalities and septic and water treatment failures, the stories are all over what happens and what it means to community.
That's what we're paying for Detroit.
Like if you can't process
for all
it,
those years, and now it's going crazy because it's been neglected.
If you can't process the wastewater treatment, it's up to $20,000 a month just to manage it until you can treat it. I mean, a couple $100,000 a year. So it's just scary to not address this and not have addressed it in 10 years or whatever it is.
It is not this board's fault that previous years didn't think ahead to have a capital improvement plan.
And this isn't.
We were dealt this hand, and now we have to.
We were here. You were here. You were here.
Right.
You were here. So how is it not half on our shoulders here?
I guess it would be leadership. I wanted a 3-year budget for every
I don't know.
year
What does
the
a 3-year budget have to do with this?
I don't know. I'm one vote.
Okay.
You can go back all the years. I was not a happy camper until now. We're actually addressing things. You go back 10 years, you'll see where my position was.
I think Tim's brought things to light for us that we didn't see before, and now you can mathematically see where we need to be.
We know where we're heading now. We've been given projections. We know our future. our eyes are open now. It was, ignorance is bliss, I guess, right?
Well, no one wanted to be the bad guy.
When did we start
No
our
one
study?
wanted to raise taxes.
Right.
No one. We still don't want to raise taxes. But again,
When did we start this study?
What study?
Paul Bailey is the one that started with the study with the SAW grant
Yeah.
that was completed
What year was
last.
that?
Well, it was last fall that he came and gave us his analysis. I don't remember what month
It was
that
completed, but when did we start that?
The SAW grant?
Yeah, when did that come in
When the
to us?
government offered it. The 2 years.
While they did the
Yeah,
mapping and
with
the
the
study?
different with the different leadership, I think.
Oh, you're talking
yeah.
about when the government offered SAW grants, Macomb County, about 2 months into where, so that started about 2 months.
So they
2
were
months into
looking
this administration, so now we're finding.
So the
now
other
we're- now
leadership
this-
was looking into it. They were trying.
Okay, that's great. Awesome.
We can only point fingers so much until we take
There's a
ownership
lot
here.
that's-
So we got it on the table now. I mean, we got something in front of us, we got to address now.
We have a motion and we have support on the table, so we're just going to finish up. I have a few people that want to offer public comment. Are they on Zoom or are they on Facebook Live?
One is on Facebook Live. It's from Justin Parker. He's asking to resubmit his question because he didn't have enough time. It says, "We understand that the water fund should not be supplemented from the general fund, but where will the money that has been traditionally spent from the general fund on water be spent, and how much is that?"
Okay, so if you take a look at the general fund analysis that I had done, to his point, we had a significant increase in our fire. So we increased our general fund expenditure by $15,000 this year. We increased our dispatch costs by about $14,000. Our DPW went up by almost $50,000. Sanitation went up by $12,000. Retiree health care went up by almost $300,000.
There you go.
Retiree health care. That's what we're paying for. Our principal debt did fall. Our transfers out were increased, and that's because we now have a healthy general fund. We did not spend any of that money that came from the community stabilization money, and we put it aside for capital improvement, our rainy day fund. So now we have a healthy fund balance, and our auditor attested to that. I also take a minute just to point out the fact that the salaries for the clerk and the administrator and this legislative body have not increased since 2014. And historically, every year prior to that, because we did the study from 2004 all the way to 2014, every year there was about a $2,000 increase in salary for that position. We are not asking for, or do we plan to give anybody a pay raise aside from our union employees who are by contract getting an increase? So that's where that money's going, Justin.
Doesn't it show a $1,200 increase to the clerk?
What's the $1,200 increase to the clerk?
No, the only one that got a raise was the treasurer, a $2,000 raise that was voted on last year.
That's not what it shows in our budget. There's a $1,200 raise.
There was a stipend that was instituted for whoever takes the minutes at these meetings. It wasn't a raise per se. Whoever takes the minutes, which right now happens to be Catherine, but the few times that Cindy came to fill in, that stipend went to her.
So that $1,200 is for that. It's not in addition to.
That is correct, because it all comes out of the general fund, but that is where we set the budget for that at this time. That is a recording secretary budget for a monthly stipend. All the other boards, whoever the recording secretary is, has the same thing.
Yes, do we have another comment?
Justin Parker just wants to respond and say thank you for your response.
He's welcome. Is there anybody else on Zoom that wanted to make a comment regarding this budget for our fiscal year 2021? Zach, do you have any more discussion?
We shouldn't be raising anything. That's my line.
Zach, the budget that you have in front of you is not an increase? So I'm not sure what you mean.
Well, we're paying for remodeling at the village hall. We're buying new windows, remodeling the place. You remodeled your office. We've done all this extra spending. And then you just listed off a number of things to where we had to pay for. I'm sorry, Mr. Blanchard wants to speak.
It's not an increase.
Are we?
The general operating
Go ahead, Ms. Blanchard.
in the highway
Tax is not an increase.
I would point out that the expenditure for the general fund from 2018 was $302,000, and last year in 2019,
it fell to $284,000. So we did cut expenses out of the village hall and grounds, Zach.
Are we still doing the roll call on?
We still need a roll call on utility.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead with the roll call. I don't know if anybody heard
President
that.
Malzahn?
Yes.
Hart?
Yes.
Bartholomew?
Yes.
Fowler?
Some residents would still like to speak.
Well, public hearing's over.
Sorry, Ms. Blanchard. See how they do you?
Oh, my God.
Zach, we're in the,
I guess
We're in the middle of a roll call vote.
we're in the middle of a roll call vote. Can I get your question as soon as we finish the roll call vote? Zach?
No.
Seidel?
Yes.
Poznanski?
No.
Edwards?
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 votes, 5-2.
Okay. Mr. Blanchard, did you have a comment? I'm sorry. What did you need to say?
Mrs. Blanchard has something to say.
sorry.
It's okay. I guess my biggest thing, I have a couple things. The big problem is that there's an increase on the water, increase on the waste, increase on the cemetery, all these increases. I also believe partly that maybe we shouldn't be asking for all the extra money that we don't necessarily need right now because of this pandemic. Of course, you have no control over it, but I think right now, just ask for what we need. And yes, if we have messed up over 10 years' time and did not do it properly, yes, we do need to do it correctly, but maybe not right at this moment. Maybe give us a few months. Maybe let some people get some paychecks and get some money. But I agree that right now is not the time to be asking for more than what we need. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so we got the budget approval. Bruce Township Sewer Agreement 425. I put this on there, and you have a copy of the letter received from Siebert, Bruce Township's attorney. They asked to have opening discussions because they would like to sell capacity for a user in Armada. They are joining property, Armada Township and Bruce Township. It doesn't touch the village. And I believe, according to the agreement that we have in place, they aren't allowed to sell capacity. I'm sorry, did I miss something?
Excuse me, President Malzahn, if I can interrupt, are we on the correct spot of the agenda at this time? We just did a vote on the utility rates?
No, that was on the budget.
No.
Didn't I?
That was utility rates.
I'm so sorry.
New
We're
item.
not on the right spot.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, so now we got to go back to DDA. Shuffle my papers. Okay. Yes, because budget's after DDA. Thanks for catching that. Okay, so in your packet then you have a copy of the proposed DDA budget for review that will be included in our budget for adoption. As part of that budget, we had discussed at our goals and objectives workshop meeting to basically end the consent judgment agreement and give back to the DDA control of the TIF capture that was adopted and is collected annually for use by that board to support our downtown district. As part of that move, I asked the DDA to enter into a revenue sharing agreement as part of that funding to give $45,000 back to the Village of Romeo for a joint project, which would be the switch out of our LED lights. I think the cost savings for our LED lights, it is not replacing the poles, it is just replacing the fixtures. Brandon from DTE said it would be about $66,000. That was a few months ago. And so, of course, we'll have to revisit those figures. But in a joint effort for a DDA/village project, I thought that that was realistic and should save us some money in the long run. So as part of that, I had drafted the proposal that you see in front of us. The DDA board voted in favor of that. Just as a quick side note, myself, Trustee Poznanski, and Trustee Seidel abstained from that vote because I didn't want there to be a conflict to vote in both places. So none of us voted for approval of that revenue sharing agreement. And they're offering that to us. Mr. Clark drafted the top sheet that you see in front of you that would be our consent to actually make that happen. So at this board level, we need to agree to this resolution that we are going to rescind that consent judgment agreement and move forward into a revenue sharing agreement that would annually be negotiated with the DDA for their budget. So
I'll make a motion to rescind the consent judgment and accept the DDA's proposed budget for 2020, 2021.
Perfect.
Support.
Okay. We have a motion. I don't know who got that first. Okay. Support by Edwards. Motion by Edwards, support by Poznanski. Is there any further discussion? Okay. Roll call, please.
Edwards?
Yes.
Poznanski?
Yes.
Bartholomew?
Yes.
Hart?
Yes.
Seidel?
Yes.
Fowler?
No.
President Malzahn?
Yes.
Motion carries 6-1.
So now we have the budget. Now we're on to the budget. So the budget adoption for our fiscal year 2021 will be to keep them.
Josh has a question or something.
Sorry. On to the 2021 budget and the millage rates. The general operating fund will be kept at the levied rate of 12.7602. The general highway fund will be kept at 1.5. And the budget that you have presented is balanced based on the adoption of the cemetery millage and the water and sewer rate adjustment. So
I'll make a motion to accept the budget as presented.
Support?
do I need to read this resolution?
Formal resolution.
Yes. I'll read the formal resolution if that's okay, just to make sure we've got all of our ducks in a row. The recommended budget includes the following. A, expenditure data for the current fiscal year through March 31st, 2020, and estimated expenditures for the current fiscal year. B, an estimate of the expenditure amounts required to conduct in the ensuing fiscal year the government of the local unit, including its budgetary centers. C, revenue data for the current fiscal year through March 31st, 2020, and estimated revenues for the current fiscal year. D, an estimate of the revenues by source of revenue to be raised or received by the local unit in ensuing fiscal year. E, an estimate of the amount of surplus or deficit expected in the current fiscal year. The inclusion of the amount of an authorized debt obligation to fund a deficit shall be sufficient to satisfy the requirement of funding the amount of a deficit estimated under this subdivision. F, an estimate of the amounts needed for deficiency, contingent, or emergency purposes. And G, other data relating to fiscal conditions that the Chief Administrative Officer considers to be useful in considering the financial needs of the local unit. Therefore, be it resolved that the amount of monies to be raised by taxation to defray the expenditures and meet the liabilities of the local unit for the ensuing fiscal year shall be raised by taxation within statutory and charter limitations, and the monies raised by taxation to be paid into the funds of the local unit. The total number of .102 mills of ad valorem property taxes to be levied and the purposes for which that millage is to be levied. The general operating fund, 12.7602, the highway fund of 1.5000, the cemetery of .75000. Again, total 15.0102 mills.
And I'll keep that my motion.
Support.
Okay. We have a motion by Hart, support by Edwards. Any other discussion? Any discussion on the budget?
Zach?
No.
Roll call, please.
Hart,
Yes.
Edwards,
Yes.
Seidel,
Yes.
Fowler,
No.
Bartholomew,
Yes.
Poznanski,
No.
President Malzahn.
Yes. Yes.
7 votes, 5-2.
Okay, now we're going on to the Bruce Township. As I said before, I received a letter from Siebert and Dolofsky requesting a meeting for the consideration of allowing Bruce Township to sell their sewer capacity to a parcel. It's in Armada Township.
So is this an end run by Armada Township?
This is by a private property owner who has been unsuccessful. You know, we have received notice, we did receive notice from Armada Township that the sewer deal is no longer in existence. They have they're not going to move forward with that special assessment district. Supervisor Paderak has requested a meeting to enter into a 425 agreement, Armada Township and the Village of Romeo for sewer service in a different format other than the special assessment district that we've been working on for I don't know how many years. So in addition to that, this parcel who touches Bruce Township needs to be, he wants to start sooner rather than later. He's been wanting to start 2 years ago, and so now he's approached Bruce Township and said, why can't we buy it from you? You're our neighbor, the infrastructure is right there. It would service his needs to build that subdivision. And my thought is, it's worth having a conversation. We need the users.
But my thought is, once you open that passage door up, you've opened it up the other way too. You've opened up a second door that you can't close. And that's
For more
bad, right?
capacity, or?
No, because once you opened this door up, door 1 to Bruce Township to sell to Armada Township, this is some other guy other than the guy we've been talking to for the last 2 or 3 years, right?
This is Mr. DeMills that owns that property that's just on the other side of 33 Mile Road in Armada Township.
So once that happens, then what says Mr. Paderak can't just renegotiate now with Bruce Township? Why would they bother negotiating with us and they get a different rate?
Capacity, I guess.
I guess it would be the language of which we would write into the contract, right? I know the precedent is there.
I think it's dangerous once you set a precedent where you open up that door, door 1, door 2 is going to open up very quickly after. And you're not going to have a leg to stand on to stop it.
Would that be the case, you think, Mr. Clark?
Well, first of all, I think the position of this is proper in that the township, as you stated, Bruce Township cannot sell or subcontract its capacity. So I think if they're intending to do that, they have to come to the village first, which they've done. The next question that I believe addresses Mr. Edwards' point is that if I understand the representation in the letter from Mr. Siebert correctly, Bruce Township is saying we have finite capacity. We're asking the village to approve us essentially subletting or selling a portion of our capacity. They're not asking for an increase in capacity. The concern, I think, is at least twofold, maybe more. One, Mr. Edwards has addressed. If the village approves this, then the negotiation is going to be between Bruce Township and Armada Township, not the village, as to what the Armada Township may get, at what price they get it. It's not going to alter the contract between the village and Bruce Township, except this permission to allow them to sell a certain amount of their capacity. So the toothpaste is coming out of the tube, and you're probably not going to be able to put it back in. The second concern I would have, it's vaguer and it's perhaps more long-term, is that if Bruce Township says, as they're representing in the letter, we just want approval to sell some of what we have, we're not asking for an increase in capacity. If there's continued development in Bruce Township, then the next time they come back, it's going to be, well, we sold some of ours, we don't have enough, now we want more. And maybe that's a good thing for the village to sell capacity, maybe it's not, I don't know. But I think the other shoe that's going to drop is the township's going to come back and say, we have no more capacity, we have a lot of demand, or we have increasing or potential demand, so now we want more of the village's capacity. You don't have to sell it, but the more there's interaction or an intertwinement, the more difficult it becomes to say no.
And he is correct, because I asked our engineering firm to take a look at the flow rates, and if he calculated out every development that's proposed that had an approved site plan over there in the industrial park, if they all were built out and were full of users today, where would they be at with the capacity that Bruce Township has? And I think it would be very close to what the contract says. That doesn't mean that all those buildings are going to come, but I said if we're going to enter into some sort of discussion to talk about this, then we need to figure out, do you actually have the capacity to sell it to this other user?
I think we're in the position of strength that we need to keep it. Because once you relinquish it to Bruce Township, it's gone. Because right now, they've contracted for 240,000 gallons a year. I think it's a year, a month, whatever it is, a month, $240,000, 240,000 gallons a month. And they're probably using, I'm gonna guess, 110, 120. They're only using like half the capacity, because all the stuff that they had previously thought was coming hadn't been coming, and now it is. And so now they're gonna sell off a percentage of this extra 100,000 plus gallons that they have.
And so playing devil's advocate, we just passed a huge increase because we don't have enough users on our system, right? We have the capacity, and that's the, that's the crux of it. Do we take a gamble and sell something? Because we clearly need the users, we need the revenue, so the more that they use, the more revenue we get.
But they need to come to us.
If we sell it to Bruce, they're just using their capacity, it's no difference in revenue for us.
Right.
Well, it is based on the flows,
They're
but,
paying the percentage that they're paying. So
Right.
they would be within their fixed costs. That would help them reduce their fixed cost. It wouldn't generate any
That's
revenue.
correct. They pay a percentage, like the sewer rates.
right.
Is a percentage of the water used. They pay a percentage of what that 240,000 gallons equals of our capacity. And I think it was.
Because back in the day, I mean, we increased our capacity because at their request. I mean, that's why.
Right.
So it's not. But anyway, if they have the capacity, it doesn't help us in our fixed cost. It helps them. Whereas if we're selling it to another user, then obviously that generates revenue.
And not too long ago in this meeting, we said we needed to protect our assets. We need to protect this asset.
So Armada Township should be talking to us.
And Mr. Paderek has asked, I've attended several meetings with lots of the property owners, and they said, please do it. And I said, I'm not going to have any conversation until I find out what you're doing with the special assessment district. I've got a current contract that says we're going to give you this amount. Until you guys decide if you're going to terminate that or move forward with it, I can't have this talk with you. And they've said now, okay, they're not doing that. So it does open the door to have that discussion with them.
The only way I would think this would be a good idea is if we are completely tapped out. If we're at 100% or 90% or whatever the number is, but you engineering-wise need as a ceiling, then I'd say okay. But otherwise, I would think they.
The only other thing that you could possibly do is maybe percentage-wise, if they're going to get some relief, we could increase their contract. And if they're at 240, we could say, okay, you're going to be paying at 280 and give them,
Yeah, but that still opens up door number 2, door number 3, because Bruce Township is right across the street.
Yeah.
If there's money to be made on our water, we need to be making that money, not
Yeah, but
Bruce
we won't be
Township.
making money this
That's what I'm saying. We need to make that money, not Bruce Township.
Right.
We just asked our people to give us more money for that plant, and then we're going to give away revenue. No, we need that revenue.
Right.
I agree. So I'll let Bruce Township know, thank you, but I'll ask Mr. Paderak.
I'm only one person, that's my opinion.
No, and you've had the most sewer experience too. I mean, you've been on that committee for, you know all about that crap.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Clark, how does annexation then work? Because I think again, in that quick meeting that I had with Mr. Paderak and Supervisor Corey, they talked about doing a 425 and them keeping their fire and ALS, that they wanted to give us their general operating. Is that the same thing that we just did with Mr. Zahowski's property in Ray Township?
No. The Zahowski property was annexed to the village. The accurate term is a boundary adjustment. As a general law village, technically, there's no annexation. You petition, as the village did at the request of Mr. Zahowski, after consideration by this board, petitioned the Macomb County Board of Commissioners asking that the boundaries of the village be adjusted to include that property owned by Mr. Zahowski or people related to him in Ray Township. That was approved by the County Board of Commissioners, and so that property is going to be village property. It will be no different than the property on Morton Street or the property on West St. Clair, wherever we live in the village. That's going to be village property. The 425, the purpose of the 425 agreement, broadly speaking, is to share services, share revenue, and not allow for annexation or boundary adjustment. In fact, in the 425 is based on a specific statute, and the language in the statute and every agreement says during the term of the agreement, the property cannot be annexed. So the point is to not have it annexed, to have it remain, the physical property to remain in the municipality in which it is, but two communities come together, share resources, and share revenues. And so what's being suggested based on what Mr. Paderak said to you, and maybe Mr. Corey as well, is let's share the sewer capacity, and in exchange for that, we, the other communities, not Bruce, but Armada, because you already have an agreement with Bruce, but Armada will pay a price for that. And it can be a portion of the millage, it can be a set dollar amount, and so it's essentially a trading of services for compensation and the boundaries remaining the same.
Okay. So, do we want to make you want to make a motion to send a letter back to Bruce Township saying no thank you? Is that just something you want me to do? Say I threw it out to the board and they said they weren't really interested and we're going to open it up to discussions with Armada?
Yeah.
If you want an official motion, we can make one. I don't know that's necessary.
I don't think it's necessary either. I can just do that. If that's the directives that you're giving me, that's what I'll do.
Sounds good.
Could we, I have never actually seen the agreement between Romeo and Bruce. Could we have copies of those?
Sure.
I do
Right here in this folder.
I mean, I don't know how long ago that was. I wasn't here, so a copy would be helpful, please.
Yeah.
I have a copy, I'm sure,
Yeah,
and I'm sure there's one in the village records. That was in the 90s that was
When
done.
the expansion was done.
Well, the original one was in the 90s, yeah. Then when they did the expansion in early, mid-2000s.
Okay.
2005.
Has anybody seen it?
I think the expansion was before.
What, the contract?
I got here in 03.
Yeah, well, only because I asked Catherine to pull it out. I said, can you pull this out for me so that I could, take a peek at it, but I'll get you copies. I'll just scan it and email it over.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Zach?
Hello? Christine?
Yes.
Yeah, to Matt's point, very valid. Is there any way that we could, the over amount that Bruce has that they want to deal with Armada, can't they return that back to the village and then we can do the brokerage?
I don't know why they would return it back to us. We don't need the capacity, and they still run the risk of, if all those developments are actually filled, that they would use every bit of that capacity. So I don't see the need for them to give it back.
Well, if they want to barter away something that we have an agreement for and they don't need it, and they want this deal to happen with Armada, can't we put ourselves in the position, like Matt was saying? The revenue can come to us, and we're in Bruce Township anyway, so they get a portion of it, being the village.
Yes, that's what Mr. Paderak has asked, that we enter into some sort of agreement and negotiate out a different funding mechanism, I guess. They don't want to do the special assessment district, but they still have their users that need the sewer. So he's looking for negotiation of what that would look like.
Not want to give up anything unless they're involved in the main deal of it, right?
Bruce Township just came to me because it's a quick fix for that developer, because they can easily just hook them up to the system, where negotiations with Armada can last for years, as we very well know. So
And they'll get revenue for that.
right, they would, yes.
We should be in that first position, like Matt said. Don't give up that leverage.
Okay. All right, so I will work on that. Let's move on. New business, we have the ACH and electronic transaction policy. I think Treasurer Maddox is still on the line, but we didn't have a policy put in place. She drafted one based on others. You have it in front of you. Just allowing her basically to move monies about through electronic transfer. So I'll make a motion to approve the ACH and electronic transaction policy as presented.
I'll support it.
Okay. Any discussion on that, Zach?
Nope.
Roll call then?
President Malzahn?
Yes.
Seidel?
Yes.
Poznanski?
Yes.
Hart?
Yes.
Fowler?
Yes.
Edwards?
Yes.
Bartholomew?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, we're getting to the end. DDA, I have accepted the resignation of Mr. Seidel from the DDA. I thank him for the very many years that he served on that board as co-chair.
And chair.
And chair, and really, you brought a lot of integrity to that board, and I appreciate the fact that, you're looking to continue to serve the residents from this board, as well as everything else that you do. So I've accepted Randy's resignation, and I have a letter of intent or interest by John Rose from Main Street Coffee, and so I am nominating him to fill that vacancy.
Support.
Any discussion on the DDA, Zach?
Nope.
Okay, roll call, please.
President Malzahn?
Yes.
Poznanski?
Yes.
Bartholomew?
Yes.
Edwards?
Yes.
Fowler?
Yes.
Hart?
Yes.
Seidel?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Emphatically, yes.
Congratulations, John. Careful what you wish for.
I don't know what you'll do with all your free time from now on.
Yeah, I'll have free time.
Right? Okay, the last thing I added to the agenda was the Gatsby report. I received an email from Watkins Ross. They did the last rate study for our audit. They're anticipating a $3,800 expenditure, which is above my ability to authorize. And unfortunately, it needs to be expedited because our treasurer, our accountant, Tim, says we're having our audit in August. So there we go. We got to do this study so that we can we can properly have our numbers accurately reported for our OPEB calculation. So I'm looking for a motion and approval of the $3,800 to Watkins Ross for the Gatsby study.
I'll make a motion that we do just what you said.
Support. We have a motion by Bartholomew. We have support by Poznanski. Roll call. Oh, wait. Any discussion, Zach?
No.
Okay, roll call.
Bartholomew?
Yes.
Poznanski?
Yes.
Seidel?
Yes.
Edwards?
Yes.
Fowler?
No?
No.
Okay. Hart?
Yes.
And President Milzon?
Yes.
6-1.
All right, motion carries. All right, now we have just public comment. So at this time, if there's anybody who wanted to speak under public comment, we can raise your hand or type in the live stream feed and we can get that read. I did have one other public comment that came to me through email. In fact, it came to all of you. I just wasn't sure because the subject line said regarding tonight's meeting, so I just figured I would read it under public comment. Dear Village Council members, I've not yet used Zoom, so I'm opting to email you with my concerns rather than attempting to participate with Zoom at tonight's meeting. I hope this is acceptable. I certainly do not need to remind you of the disarray the world is in due to this pandemic. How many village residents are in a financial bind? How many village residents are now struggling to make ends meet and feed their families? Unemployment is at an all-time rate, and the future picture looks gloom for many people. I do not need to also remind you of the uncertainty we all face as this pandemic continues to take its own course. So far, there is no end in sight. This makes financial security an additional worry to our health and safety concerns. Expecting village residents to accept taking on additional costs at this time is unacceptable. I also feel it is downright disconcerting and cruel for our administration to even suggest doing so during this time of worldwide crisis. If there is financial alarm behind the expediency of the tax increases and water and sewer rates proposed, perhaps a reduction in administrative pay and/or benefit expenses should be imposed, as other officials in the county, state, and country have agreed to. In addition, perhaps it should be proposed to delay or cancel projects such as office remodeling deemed unnecessary and unessential at this time. Sincerely, Debbie Martone.
I also have one from a resident.
Okay.
Actually, she sent me the same email twice. I'm aware that you're increasing our water bill. How much of an increase will there be? Also, that you, as a board, are giving yourselves a raise. Again, how much? How can you justify these actions at this financially troubling times? I am a senior and widow who does not use a lot of water but pays the set rate. As you are aware, we must also need to make use of water softener and a reverse osmosis for our drinking water. I believe that you should not pursue this action as we are financially strapped. At the very least, do not inflict this raise on your seniors. Your raise for yourselves is a slap in the face to the residents of Romeo. Joanne Culver Drunk from 166 Benjamin Street. I did respond to her and offer a phone conversation to further discuss some of her points, and she said, no, just please read this at tonight's meeting.
Do we have anybody else?
Yes. Dee Carpenter, could you please address what the plans are for this year's Peach Fest? The thought of all those people coming into our small village is frightening to me.
So as of right now, I've reached out to Grace Vinay at Parks and Rec and reached out to Ron Marcel from the Lions. They are going to wait until the beginning of June to see what the governor does with the executive orders. They're also waiting to follow suit with whatever the Armada Fair and Imlay City Fair do at this time. They're a little bit after. I personally don't see how we can pull this off. It's heartbreaking, and I'm, just trying to put my head together, come up with a creative solution to have some small form variation just so that we can say we had one, but I don't have any idea what that would look like. I'm not in control of it. We do, have to pass the parade resolution if Parks and Rec decides to do the parade, but everybody's just sort of trying to calculate out what, if anything, we can do. So nothing's been decided to answer her question, but hopefully soon.
No more further comments from Facebook.
Okay.
Or Zoom.
For Zoom, yes. Okay. Hearing no more public comments, Zach, would you like to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Support. Support.
Fowler.
Yes.
Hart.
Yes.
Bartholomew.
Yes.
Seidel.
Yes.
Poznanski.
Yes.
Fowler. Oh, I'm sorry, here, you're right here. Edwards.
Yes.
President Wilson.
Yes. Thank you, everybody, for your comments and your input. Have a good night. Stay safe.